So you want to be cool, literally and figuratively, like this honcho here, huh? Well, we're going to talk about the 4 ways that mini splits tend to pay for themselves. So some, all, none of the things you're going to see here apply to your situation. If none of them apply, probably mini split's not the best opportunity for you. But if some of them do, probably is a good opportunity. Meanwhile, if you already have a mini split, I'd like to hear in the comment section of ways that in which we're talking about here that are useful to you, or other ways that the mini split is saving money for you. So from the top, first thing, mini splits have a much easier electrical system for installation than a traditional split system, be it either a heat pump or air conditioner. Why? Well, the first thing, you have a breaker panel here that needs both a 240 two-pole breaker going from the breaker panel to running Romex to this disconnect box, and then the disconnect box from the disconnect box to the whip to the outdoor unit, and then Romex from the indoor unit to a single pole breaker back to the breaker panel, and then thermostat wire from the thermostat to the indoor unit, and thermostat wire connecting the indoor unit and outdoor unit. A lot of work. Meanwhile, for the mini split, 9,000, 12,000 BTU unit, most of those, a lot of those you can plug right in. So if you have a plug behind or beside your house, at the side of your house, just plug it in. That part of it solved. No breaker needed on the system. Okay, now if you're getting a 2-ton unit, 24,000 BTU, larger unit, 18,000 BTU unit, you're going to need a breaker, but it's going to be a simple 240 breaker, and you're not going to need to do one for the indoor unit. Why? Because the indoor unit gets its power via this cord, which goes from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit. So this is called communication control, and power wire does all 3 of those things. No need to do any indoor unit separate wiring. And in terms of a thermostat, most all mini splits I've ever seen come with a handheld remote control. As long as you're one to not lose your remote control, that's going to be a lot easier for you than having to wire one to your wall. Most mini splits, optionally, you can get one that you can put on your wall, but most people don't bother. Next, the air distribution is very simple on a mini split. So this unit right here, normal mini split, it's winter time, cold air is coming through the top here, warm air is coming out the bottom here. Is it on? Yes, it is on. It's just that quiet. Okay, now the distribution system on a split system, you have this closet-like thing. Air comes through the vents here. The air handler is in here. Now this is in a 1-story condominium. Your situation may be different if you might have a return ductwork, separate ductwork for the return as well, and you have double ductwork, and that's maybe going to the basement. But at any rate, there's a lot of ductwork coming from this closet, in this case, up to all these vents, maybe at 7 spots. So maybe you have more than one split system, in which case you have one air handling unit for each system, and then 7, 8, 9 different registers or vents going throughout the house for each system. So a lot of work to do. You can potentially add on to one of these by putting in a duct in another room, but if by doing that, you're going to be taking away some air from another spot. So mini split may be still the best solution, even if potentially could be easier for you to add duct to a different spot. Next, these are inherently efficient. Why? They have larger coils based on number of BTUs than normal split systems. So bigger coil means more heat exchange. That's how thermodynamics, that's how air conditioning works. So big coil means more efficiency. Most of these units in the United States now have variable speed motors, so that means more efficiency. And then we saw, without having the duct and that duct static pressure, you also are going to be more efficient. So mini splits tend to be like this one here, 21.5 SEER versus 14 SEER on the split system. Pretty typical, all right? Some lower end mini splits, maybe only 17, 18 SEER, but a lot of them in the 20s, and so that's like 50% more efficient than what likely your current split system is. So by having this simple coil, all the air flows right, into the top and out through the bottom. One place of contact. There's no potential duct loss like there is in your attic. Now this is kind of, maybe hopefully your attic doesn't look, or your crawl space doesn't look as bad as these, but this shows a flex duct and normal duct work here. This normal duct, you can see you can't see it, but there's a leak here. The problem with normal duct, they can be tough to seal because one piece fits onto the other. Those can get cracks. All of a sudden air is going in your attic, which is taking away from your comfort. Okay, or else on the flex duct, every time that bends, because of the nature, it's frictiony already inside, so it builds up dust. Dust is friction. Less air is making to the spot, so some efficiency is lost in the air distribution for a traditional split system. Next part of that is, let's say that, like here, I'm in an upstairs converted attic office. The rest of the building, commercial building in this case, nothing's turned on. I can do that, and I'm running for virtually free here in the space where I'm spending a lot of time. So put your mini split in bedroom, wherever you spend a lot of time, home office, etc. And that way, potentially, you can take your main system and up the temperature by a degree or two. If you can, for every degree, you can increase it in the summer and decrease it in the winter. That saves, according to APS, which is the utility, one of the utilities in Phoenix, in Arizona, saves 2.5%. So if you can do it 5 degrees, say, that's 12.5%. Okay, plus by having your inherently more efficient mini split. Let's say you had a 3-ton unit and this 1-ton unit, all of a sudden you have 4 tons, so you have 33.33% more air that's coming in at a higher efficiency than the rest of the system, so that also adds efficiency. But all these different ducts, so many people run their whole house at the same temperature, and that's not needed anymore with mini split type systems. So mini splits that are sold in the United States, most of them now coming with inverter compressors and brushless DC fans, and this allows for something called variable refrigerant flow. And all that really means is that the system can stay on all the time, but it runs faster or slower depending on your need for cooling or heating in the space. So the closer you get to the set point, the compressor slows down, the refrigerant flow slows down, the fans slow down, and with that, your efficiency goes up. And that's why the SEER values are very high for spring and fall type weather. Maybe it's not super hot or super cold. It can run very slowly. Old style systems cannot, split systems cannot do that, most of them anyway. Some now whole house systems coming with inverter compressors, but very few have that as of now. Okay, we didn't talk yet about the window unit. Window unit, good in a pinch. There are some challenges that window units have. One, you see even this one, which is a Shutterstock photo. It's rusting down below because the condensate isn't well managed. Around, it tends to be hard to seal around the unit. So you can imagine that not only in where I was from in Michigan, mosquitoes were getting in, flies were getting in if you didn't have that sucker really well sealed, but it's also hot air is getting in the summer, so it's not well sealed, and so for that reason it's not efficient. It's also super loud because these usually don't have inverter compressors, and so the compressor is right there outside your window, and that can be annoying. But in a pinch, not a bad option actually, and some of these are actually getting more efficient. Some U-shaped ones that make it so it's not taking away as much of your view either, which is also a potential concern. Okay, these have washable filters on mini splits. You don't have to spend 10 bucks every month. They just slide right out. And so people tend to conveniently forget to whose job it is to replace the filter, take the door off of their traditional air handling unit and spend the 10, 12 bucks on a filter. And if you forget to do that, that can be a very expensive habit, because now all of a sudden that filter is getting sucked up into the air handling unit. That's probably the best case scenario. Worst case, no airflow means that the compressor is not getting any air, and all of a sudden you're frying a compressor out $3,000 or whatever. So if you look, if you're, the smart thermostat's good idea, but do it if you don't have one already, but they will give you, in certain cases, a lot of headache. All this wiring here looks easy now, but it took us a while to match everything. Everything's easy in theory, but it takes a while to get that set up. Once it is set up, then you have the app. This is a Google Nest app, Google Home app, and that's advantageous. But meanwhile, mini splits, a lot of them come with an IoT, Internet of Things, microprocessor chip already embedded in the indoor unit. And so with that, in addition to your handheld remote, you can have an app to do set point, do scheduling, etc. And that's, in most cases, free. Now, Google Nest, one of them, the $250 one, will, when you're driving, it senses where your cell phone is and it turns the unit on base when you get closer to home. That's a nice feature. But for $250 more for that one feature versus something that comes free now with a lot of mini splits, may or may not be cost justified. This Inflation Reduction Act, we can debate whether it's actually doing much to reduce inflation, but I'll tell you, if you're getting a mini split heat pump or any heat pump that is meeting these efficiency standards, you're going to be saving 30% not only on the unit but in the installation, and that 30% is money off whatever your bottom line taxes are. It's a tax credit, so it's not just you're not just writing it off, it's actual cash off your taxes at the end of the day. So we're AirSpool. We have a mini split. It's solar powered hybrid mini split, and it runs 22 SEER right now at nighttime. During daytime, it will always optimize potentially most of the day, or when it's sunny, it's running off of solar. When it's not, the grid is filling in. And for that, we got this Most Efficient 2024 award. So if you're in the market for a mini split, you happen to be also interested in solar, subscribe to our channel. Let's keep the dialogue open. Thank you.